Hey there, everybody. With the latest update to Cubro's Custos software, we've now brought the ability to configure tapping and aggregation on your Omnia10 device directly into the UI of Custos itself. So in this video, we're just going to take a quick look at how that's configured. Once we've logged into Custos, we're greeted by our dashboard. We're going to go the whole way down to the bottom of the side menu here and click on the Manage tab. Inside the Manage tab, we have two new options. We have Interfaces and Aggregation and Tapping. If we take a quick look at the Interfaces menu item, this is going to give us a rundown of all of the ports on our Omnia 10, as well as all of our statistics, port counters, things like that, as well as the link status and the speed that those different interfaces are configured at. If we go to Aggregation and Tapping, we're going to get this interactive image of the front faceplate of the Omnia 10 and all of its interfaces. You can see that already some configuration has been done on this device. For example, the G1 to G2 interfaces are configured with bidirectional tapping, and we're also forwarding traffic from the G1 interface to the X1 interface. Similarly, we have the same thing going on with G7 and G8, bidirectional tapping, and we're forwarding traffic from G8 to the virtual interface that goes to the CPU. I'll talk more about that in just a moment. So to show how this is configured, I'm going to focus on the G5 and G6 interfaces that don't have any configuration currently applied. Right now we can see that there's a red X in between those two interfaces. This signifies that no tapping between the two interfaces is configured. And this would be just the way we would want this set up if we were, say, taking span ports or mirror port feeds into either of these interfaces with the intention of forwarding that traffic to another interface. If we want to configure tapping, we're just going to click on this and we get this green check mark now with an arrow pointing both towards the G5 and towards the G6 interface. So here's our bidirectional tapping. And also if we take a look down here at the bottom, we have this tapping sort of menu, and it shows now that we have tapping from G5 to G6, as well as from G6 to G5. If we click this again, we're going to change that to an arrow just pointing towards the G5 interface. This is telling us that we're tapping in the direction of traffic from G6 to G5. So all traffic going from G6 to G5 is being tapped, but no traffic from G5 to G6 is being tapped. And again, that's reflected down in this tapping menu. Another click and we just invert that selection. So now tapping all traffic from G5 to G6, but not in the other direction. And then a final click brings us back to no tapping configured. Just a quick note here, if we have some tapping configured on here, for example, I have this set up for bidirectional, instead of clicking on this, if I just want to specifically remove a certain direction, say I no longer want to take traffic that's traveling from G6 to G5, I can also hit this X down here in the tapping menu and remove that. Or if I want to go back to no tapping, I can remove both entries. So as far as forwarding traffic or aggregating traffic, this is a drag and drop interface. So if I wanted to forward traffic now from G5 to X1, then I would just click and hold on the G5 interface, and I'm going to drag this over to the X1 interface. Now we get this green arrow showing us that traffic from G5 is being forwarded to X1. And if I do the same with G6, now we have the traffic from both G5 and G6 being forwarded to the X1 interface and aggregated together, along with that traffic we saw just a moment ago, or I spoke about just a moment ago from G1 and G3 as well. If I want to remove any of this forwarded traffic from the X1 interface, then I'm going to come down here to this aggregation menu, find those entries. So G5 to X1, I can just X that out. And then G6 to X1, I can also cancel that out. If I want to forward traffic to Custos itself for analysis, that's going to be the virtual interface that's labeled XV or to CPU. So again, just drag and drop. I can take that G5 traffic, drop it right on there, and now I'm forwarding that traffic to the CPU. And again, if I want to remove it, just click this X down here in the aggregation menu, and we can get rid of that. One last thing to note here, if I make any changes, say, for example, I'm going to redo this G5 to XV interface. If I want to save this and have this be my default configuration, I can click on this Save button here. Or if I've done some things in here and I'm not happy with the results and I want to return to the previously saved state, I can go ahead and click the Restore Saved State button here. So there we go. So that's an overview of the new tapping and aggregation for Omnia 10 directly in the Custos interface. I hope this has been helpful, and take care, everybody.